Okay, moving on. I'm going to talk about a few legumes to start with. So we're still soybeans, edamame. They're a bean, so you plant them after frost. The only thing is that, if we're growing something like green beans, most of those varieties take 55 to 60 or 65 days to, until you can harvest. And the soybeans, most of the varieties will take 70, 80, or even 90 days. So we want to look for varieties that are the earlier ones, like that are 70 to 75 days. And then when you harvest these, when you harvest your little fresh edamame, you just steam them, in a pot, and then take them out, sprinkle them with some coarse salt, and then pop the little beans into your mouth, just like you would do at Payway, if you bought them at Payway. Okay, and then also I have read that edamame translates to beans on a branch, which is kind of how they grow. You can see in that picture. They just kind of grow hanging on that one central stem. Okay, one more legume, peanuts. You can see in that bottom picture that they just, when you plant the peanuts, you take the peanuts out of the shell. Be real careful that you don't want to make the peanut break in half, so just plant the whole. Once you take the peanuts out of the shell, then plant the individual peanuts in the ground, and then they will soon send up foliage, and they just make these real pretty little oval leaves, and then about 6 weeks later or so, they'll start to flower with these real pretty yellow flowers, and I've got a picture of them on the next slide. And then the flower will send out a peg, a little shoot that will go down into the ground, and on the tip of that peg is the ovary of the peanut. And once it goes down under the ground, it develops. And then you have a peanut. Is that just pretty amazing? Here's just an example. I grew them in a raised bed in my garden. That's when they were planted in the first slide. And then you can see all that foliage and the pretty flowers. Can you see that they look kind of like a pea? Maybe that's where the name peanut came from. And then here's an example of the pegs right there. So those are not going to do anything because they're growing on the outside of the bed, and they're not going to reach any ground. So they're just going to wither away. And then down below are just some of the peanuts that you harvest. Once you harvest the plants, then I laid them out on a tarp on my driveway and let the plants dry a little bit, and then that makes it easier to take the peanuts off the shells off the plant. So once it's time to do that, I usually take them over to my mom, and she's 91, and she does that kind of stuff. She shells everything, and anyway, because that is a little bit of a time-consuming job to take off the peanuts from the plant. And then you can eat them raw if you want. Has anybody here ever eaten a raw peanut? Well, they taste like a bean, right? They're a legume, so they taste kind of beany. But if you take those peanuts in the shell and you roast them and then you eat them, wow. And if you grow your own peanuts and then you buy roasted peanuts at the store and you roast your homegrown peanuts and then you have a little taste test with those store-bought peanuts, there is no comparison. They are really so much better. So anyway, the Texas red and white, those are Texas red and white, and I think the other one is Tennessee red. I got from Southern Exposure Seed. But otherwise, it's kind of hard. There's not a whole lot of peanuts available to order from a seed catalog. So if you can't find them, you can try them if you can find raw peanuts, unroasted peanuts.